Hi, and welcome to the Market Alert for Friday, the 5th of September 2025. So bonds and stocks bid ahead of payrolls palooza. Gold and Bitcoin faded yesterday. Ugly jobs print sparked a bad news is good news response with rate cut odds rising. So that must be the ADP numbers then from yesterday. So let's just have a quick look at those. ADP, yeah, they came out lower than forecast, so that actually sparked the rally that we saw in the stock markets, because obviously bad news is good news, and that means that there's a good chance of getting a 50 basis point cut. Also, the wrap yesterday, 1.5 billion daily buyback bid vanishes just as bond volatility explodes. Who's going to buy the dip when the 1.5 billion daily buyback bid vanishes? Can you believe this? Buybacks, the amount of money that is being pumped into the buybacks. US stocks gained amid soft labour-related metrics ahead of NFP. So that was again relating to the ADP, and stocks and bonds bid into NFP. And then finally, August payrolls review. Will it be ugly enough for a 50 basis point cut? A weaker than expected print will increase calls for 50 basis points, and the magnitude of the downside risk could re-anchor investor expectations around the timing of a recession. So let's see what happens today. And speaking of today, let's just quick refresh there. We've got retail sales from the UK today, but then the main event is obviously the non-farm payrolls, particularly as they're going to underpin how much of a rate cut we're going to get. We know there's going to be a rate cut, but we just don't know what it is. If we don't get 50 basis points now, the market's going to be very disappointed, isn't it? But 130, that's the one to look for. Interestingly enough, 75k, 73k. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? That they've managed to lower the figure so it looks good, just in case it doesn't match, or it's greater than the 73k. So watch this space at 130. I'm sure there's going to be some manipulation of numbers here, some creative accounting as well. Right, let's have a look at the markets for yesterday. As the headlines point to, there was obviously good news in the bad news, because the ADP numbers are bad, so that means we're going to get a bigger rate cut, which is good for the stock market. So let's kick off and have a look at the Dow. And good news indeed. You can see there yesterday the market's trading up, and as I mentioned in yesterday's alert, the 89% retracement is key. We saw all of these other ones where the market had failed to get through. So barring a really bad non-farm payrolls number today, this is going on to make new all-time highs into the Friday trading session. Yesterday you can see ADP numbers, then the cash market, the volume comes in, and woof, off we go all the way up, and making that trip to the 89% retracement in the daily chart. Over in Europe, even the DAX took advantage of this as well and moved high. You can see the momentum switching back to the upside there. Again, if you wanted to see how the momentum's playing out, then we can just draw in some fibs to the upside, and all I've done is click twice on the high of this bar in the software to give me these numbers. You can see we're at 62. We need to drive through this in order to move higher. So 23,862. Yesterday in the 30-minute chart, if I can see it, it's here somewhere. There we go. We started off sideways, and then obviously ADP assisted the markets and moved it to the upside, and currently we're at the high of yesterday. So all we need today is the NFP numbers to come out higher than the 74,000 that's forecast. It only needs to come out at 75, and the market's going to go up and make new all-time highs, unless they turn that around and say, well, it's not as good. It's higher, yes, but it's not as good as what we wanted. But for my money today, and based on looking at these numbers for many, many, many years, though, if they use the ADP numbers yesterday that were bad, and the NFP numbers come out bad, again, it points to further cuts, which is good news for the stock market, because more money will go into the markets and leave the banks, because the rates are going to be better, in theory, of course. And the S&P puts in a new all-time high. No surprise there, as we spoke about it yesterday. Straight through the 89. If you go through the 89, you go through the high. If you go through the high in all-time highs, you keep making new all-time highs. and that's exactly what happened yesterday. So you can see another bit of a bonanza today, moving to the upside. In the FT100, Rachel will be happy. The market moved up there. We traded up to the 50% retracement. We need to get through this in order to start moving back to those all-time highs up there at 9359. 30-minute chart, you can see there volume coming in as the market got to 7 a.m. or is that 8:30? That's 8:30, and then off we went to the 9 o'clock bar, 8:30 to 9 a.m. and then off we went to the upside. So in the US dollar, obviously this is waiting for today's news. Again, if it's 50 basis points, we go down. If it's not, and the news is not so good, then we'll see the dollar move to the upside. So have a look at the metals for yesterday. As it said in the headlines that gold had come off, and it did, but let's go and have a look in more detail. Just starting off with silver though. Silver was sold into yesterday, but moving back to the upside tonight during the night. If the NFP numbers come out weaker than forecast, then you will see silver moving to the upside because it's inversely related to the dollar. The same as gold as well. 30-minute chart. There's the smackdown, daily smackdown, and it is Friday, of course, as well, and they do like to smack it down. But as I said in Monday's alert, the Smackdown Friday seems to have gone off the radar at the moment. So silver managing to come off the 200 MA overnight there, which you can see there nicely, just touching the 200 MA. So that would be key in the 30-minute chart. Meanwhile, in gold, yesterday the market came down, touched the 5-bar moving average, and then moved around and went back to the upside. And you can see that it was a lot stronger and firmer than silver. So let's have a look at the gold-silver ratio. So the gold-silver ratio up yesterday, down on the overnight. Silver holding ground a bit better than gold at the moment. But yesterday that gap well and truly filled that we had earlier on in the week in the gold-silver ratio. So trying to, as I say, we've got a bit of a dead cat bounce going on in the gold-silver ratio there. Right, let's have a look at yesterday's German DAX. So yesterday in the pre-market session we had a range of around 60 points, so you could see them buying back in at certain points as well to try and hold the range, and then we got into the main cash event which kicked off at 8 a.m. and you can see the market trading sideways in a range, pulling back and then moving off the 200 MA back to the upside and all the way back to the high from the previous day. Then had a couple of potential signals, neither of which were filled, and then we had another one which was filled, but the market then had other ideas and didn't want to go up and took out the trade down through the 50 EMA. And again, you can see these isolated little volume bars here where they leave the footprints of what it is they're actually doing, and then prices went into the 10 a.m. sideways and then drifted slightly lower there and just stayed in a choppy range because we had those ADP numbers at 115, which you see the reaction there, and then the market trading sideways and moving to the downside because obviously it was bad news at the time. However, as we saw in the headlines, bad news is good news for the market because of the knock-on effect of getting that 50 basis point cut. And then obviously the stock market's moving higher in the US, dragging the DAX to the upside with this, and then more news there. And then we get a quick sell signal down towards the 200 MA. Again, you see the buying coming in at this level. And then prices move back to the upside off that 200 MA and moving up to the BRN and the previous area where the selling took place before. And then we get the switch off at 4:30 p.m. there. So where are we overnight? Let's just have a quick look. We can see that we're already through yesterday's high. The optimism is there, obviously. I mean, longer term we can see how seriously overvalued these markets are and there's trouble ahead. But on a day-by-day basis, we can see that they want the markets to the upside, and that has already started, and it is only 6:30 a.m. We haven't got to the 7 a.m. futures kick-off yet. So the market moving up quite nicely there, and I suspect, given the backdrop of everything we've just been through, that it's going to continue like that for the day, unless there is something seriously bad that comes out. Right, that's it for this one and for this week. So have a great weekend, and as ever, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.